Hi, everyone. Welcome to this session. I hope you're all having a good time at the summit. My name is Kiran Kamreddy. I am a product manager at StarRocks. I lead the product and strategy on our cloud services portfolio. And I'm here to talk about the CelerData Cloud Services and how they help accelerate your StarRocks adoption. This is StarRocks Summit, obviously. So I want to give a quick shout out to the wonderful StarRocks project, which, as many of you know, is an open source Linux Foundation project distributed with an Apache license. StarRocks is a highly performant real-time analytics database. I hope you have heard this many times during the day. That comes with many cool features like vectorized processing, the wonderful cost-based optimizer, and the support for distributed joins for effective and faster SQL processing. The project has received many awards in the past, like a Digital Innovator Award and the Best Open Source Award, and is ever increasing in popularity. With right now, we are trending about 11,000 GitHub stars. So we all know StarRocks is a pretty powerful analytics database, but business leaders and owners who are responsible for the outcomes by applying StarRocks to their business problems, or as an admin who is running day-to-day operations, they think about how to get started fast and quickly with StarRocks, and from there, how to get results even faster and not get distracted or bogged down by operations like installation, deployment, and day-to-day management of the StarRocks cluster. Businesses would like to be focused on use cases and the end ultimate outcomes, and they think about how to ensure that the StarRocks cluster or StarRocks project is agile enough to adjust to their ever-changing business needs, all the while staying compliant, staying secure within the enterprise and complying with all different kinds of policies and avoid the risk of lock-in both for now and the future. And another consideration that the businesses have is from a budgeting standpoint, how are they able to control the costs? How do you ensure transparency in terms of how much are these clusters costing? And how do they do a better job of the operational budgets around maintaining and running these clusters? So these are some very critical questions that kind of linger in the minds of the business leaders and the business teams who have been told by their teams that StarRocks is a great solution for solving some of their business problems. But these questions, they kind of like create like a mental barrier to get going and further adoption. So the folks at CelerData have been traditionally long focused on developing enterprise-focused capabilities for StarRocks adoption. They also have thought long and hard about this specific problems that I kind of like mentioned earlier. And to solve these problems, I'm glad to introduce CelerData Cloud Services to exactly address these questions and concerns around adoption and going further with their StarRocks clusters. At a high level, CelerData Cloud Services is a fully managed bring your own cloud offering, which fully automates the deployment, management, and operations in a secure and reliable fashion. As you may have noted, this is a BYOC offering, which means that the service deploys and manages clusters in customer VPCs and networks so that customers have higher levels of security and performance within their broader data ecosystem. They enjoy the higher performance because all of their data pipelines, the downstream data sources, and the upstream applications and BI dashboards all stay in a single network. So there are not many network hoops that they need to jump through, and ultimately resulting in a higher base performance compared to some of the other cloud offerings. And all of this is done in a very transparent, cost-effective manner, which I'll discuss a little bit more in the subsequent slides. All of this while enjoying the same great benefits and the value of the StarRocks experience, which is the power of joins and fast vectorized executions and the cost-based optimizer. So CelerData Cloud Services allows you to enjoy the same StarRocks benefits while delivering a lot of the management and operational benefits. Just want to get into a little bit of a more detail into what the service is and what are some of the key features of the that make up the cloud service. Number one, first, it's a fully managed service, meaning all of the hardware, software, configuration, tuning, all of that is abstracted under a single button in a intuitive cloud console, meaning behind buttons like create cluster, manage clusters, uh, everything around installation, managing, all of that is abstracted and presented to you in a manner of a button click. Once deployed, the management and maintenance, like upgrades and patches, are also fully automated and delivered in a self-service manner. So customers don't really have to keep worrying about this operational burden to keep their StarRocks clusters on and running and run in a high performance manner. So that this also like relieves customers to and gives them time so they can focus more on their SQL queries, the business use cases, and the end user outcomes. Secondly, the deployment itself is done in a best practice manner, meaning it is always deployed in a highly available fashion with data durable practices, meaning data is never lost, and has capabilities around auto scale, which will adjust according to the changing workloads. If you were to do it yourself, it is possible, but it is manual. Needs to be done in a it is done via a bunch of scripts. Maybe a few people inside the company know it, so it's hard to like scale from that situation. But cloud services offers you all of this under a click of a button. Third, security is something that is very important for us at the company, and we have taken that very seriously while building this cloud service. Security is built throughout the product, meaning the different layers of networks, applications, data, and infrastructure. It is built in through and through. Based on the best practices that are out there in the industry, and not only at the build time, but the security practices are kept up to date as the time goes on and new trends in the industry emerge. Fourth, customers get to enjoy a modern SaaS experience through the intuitive cloud console to perform everything, right? From creating clusters, deleting clusters, stopping clusters, scaling clusters. All of that is done through an intuitive SaaS console where it's all abstracted away under a button click. Not only that, a cloud service offers a intuitive graphical editor console which users can use to do things like load data, write queries, watch the different metrics with respect to their query execution, and adjust the query depending on how the query metrics are coming along. An alternative is StarRocks cluster. So you'll have to like work with the myriad variety of third-party tools to work with the cluster. But with cloud services, you just get like a single console to do both your management operations and also write and execute your SQL queries. Billing is another important element of what cloud services has to offer. And it is simple and transparent in the form of CCUs. CCUs it stands for CelerData Cloud Credit. So it's a simple and transparent way which clearly communicates to the customer or the end user as to how many CCUs is the cluster consuming at that point in the past 1 hour, past 1 week, or past 1 month. And this information is presented in a nice and intuitive dashboard, so customers have a good way to understand how much is the cluster costing them, and they can use this information to do operational budget and do all kinds of planning around budgets and planning. The console also provides interfaces for monitoring how the cluster is doing from a capacity and a health perspective. Different kinds of metrics like CPU and RAM are displayed to you on the same unified console, so that there's a good sense of how the cluster is doing from a performance and health and capacity perspective. Proactive monitoring and alerts is something that is inbuilt into all the clusters that are deployed through the cloud services, which means that if something is going wrong on the cluster, the accelerator team proactively intervenes and fixes them, sometimes even before the customer knows about it. And in some cases where customers have to intervene, for example, to change the capacity of the cluster, which results in higher price, there is an ability to send a proactive alerts, requesting or nudging the end user and the customer about the current workload and the need to increase or decrease the capacity depending on how the workload is trending. Upgrades and maintenance, as I mentioned before, it's all button click away, so that users don't have to spend days and months planning upgrades and planning patches. It's all abstracted away behind the button clicks through the cloud services. And lastly, we have recently launched the cloud services on GCP. We have always been available on AWS and Azure for like more than a couple of years now. And with the recent launch, we are now available across all the major cloud platforms, which means customers get a choice of deploying clusters in any of the cloud platform that they want through a single console. And also, this gives benefits in terms of customers bringing their existing commitments, existing budgeting related commitments that they may have with any of these cloud providers, and apply it to CelerData Cloud Services. So that's the level of flexibility that the cloud services offer. So now let's talk about like what is involved in, like, from a tactical perspective, what is involved in setting up and running an SR cluster, and how is it different from the CelerData Cloud Services. So if you think about the life cycle of a StarRocks cluster, you typically start with like downloading the software and acquiring the relevant either the software license if you're looking at the enterprise edition, or signing up a support contract. And then you start with sizing the infrastructure to run the StarRocks cluster on, size it for different workloads. And then once the sizing is done, you acquire the infrastructure either on one of the cloud platforms or in your data center, and then you install, configure, administer, performance tune, and provision in different ways. All of this are obviously manual processes involved. Sometimes you can write scripts, but again, that knowledge of scripts is limited to like maybe one or two people inside the company. It's hard to scale from there. And once you deploy the cluster from a day one operations perspective, there are things like performing backups, performing restores, performing upgrades. All of these are manual things that need to be done to keep the cluster up and going. So all of that is the provisioning part, and then you have to load the data via command line interface, or use some other third-party tooling, write SQL, and view the SQL results, metrics on them, and also manually establish connections to the different lake houses, and also the upstream BI or applications themselves. All of that is manual in a typical StarRocks cluster scenario. Billing, reporting, cost management, all of this needs to be performed manually via special mechanisms. So this list of steps that you see on the screen gives you a high level a number of things that an admin or an operations person typically have to take care of to manage an effective deployment and operations of a StarRocks cluster. But if you think about what cloud services brings to the table, is all of these steps are kind of like included in the cloud services and ready to go from day one, which means customers really have an easier and a faster way to get started, and also manage ongoing operations of the clusters from there on. So I just want to talk about the architecture of what the cloud service at a high level. There are two distinct components. One is a control plane, which is responsible for orchestration and management of these clusters on an ongoing basis. Control plane is a multi-tenant system that is responsible for managing all the clusters that we deploy for different customers. A data plane is where the actual data resides. As I'm pointing my mouse, this is the control plane, and this is the data plane. An important point to note is that the data plane sits entirely in the customer's networks and VPCs, offering greater levels of control and isolation to the cluster itself. By default, what this is, at a base level, there is a higher levels of security and performance because it's all isolated to customers' VPCs and networks. And because it's all running in one network, at a base level, customers connecting to their downstream lake houses or upstream BI applications have less network hoops to go through, and that results in a higher performance cluster. Cloud services is built on four key foundational principles. The first one is enterprise readiness. Our number one goal with cloud services is to offer a highly reliable and performant service that offers high levels of scalability and manageability. We really want enterprises to achieve their governance and compliance policies, and we would like the cloud services to accelerate that path, and they not getting bogged down by these operational concerns. We ourselves have security certifications like SOC 2 and GDPR 2, and having cloud services as a part of your overall data management system, you get like a boost up to achieve your own security certifications. As I mentioned, security is something that is baked into multiple layers of the product. The second foundational principle is a managed service experience. We really want our customers to have a fully managed experience and not get bogged down by the operational and management related concerns around operating a StarRocks cluster. And we do that via through intuitive, modern SaaS interfaces for all types of personas involved with the data management. Not only the personas who are involved in deploying, managing, ingestion, exporting data pipelines, but also users who are writing these SQL queries, like solving their business problems through the insights that are delivered through these query results. We want the experience, as I mentioned, not only for the database persona, but also for the management and billing and finance personas as well. The third foundational principle is our goal really is to enable end-to-end customer use cases, especially around real-time analytics and lakehouse implementations. We don't want to just end at like providing a database cluster, but we want to make the entire data ecosystem possible by having intuitive and easy to use integrations built into Iceberg, for example, S3, another example, and provide an end-to-end experience with respect to data ingest, data export, and connections to the upstream BI applications as well. The fourth pillar is operational excellence. Operational excellence. So this is something that underpins all of our entire service. Our goal really is to provide a level of excellence with respect to proactive monitoring, alerts, automated remediations, all the while maintaining the uptime SLAs on the cloud services clusters that are provided through this product offering. Yeah, just want to take to kind of like put the things in perspective. Want to spend a couple of minutes on comparing CelerData Cloud Services with StarRocks open source software. As I mentioned earlier, the core database functionality is the same, meaning with both StarRocks OSS and cloud services, you'll have the power of vectorized query engine. You'll get the cost-based optimizer, external table querying, and materialist views across both the offerings. But the key differentiation is around out of the box, ready to go capabilities around maintaining compliance and privacy, which are pre-built and ready to go with cloud services, so that customers have more time to focus more and dedicate their energies more on their core business problems and not on administration and management. Customer service and customer support is something that is inbuilt with our cloud services, and you don't have to like write a separate contract to secure that it is already included in the cloud services. Continuing along the spectrum here, the core security features like SSL, SSO, LDAP, all of these like core features are available, as I mentioned, across both the offerings. But the way it is different in the cloud services is that they come out of the box, they're ready to use, so that you don't have to spend too much time on configuring and making it work. There's certain advanced features like multi-warehouse, cross-cluster replication. Again, they are the core features that you can like manually implement and maintain, or have the option of like click a button and you have a multi-warehouse, click a button and you have cross-cluster replication. Something unique to CelerData Cloud is a SQL editor monitoring and cloud-native functionalities for on-demand consumption. For example, you can stop the cluster, you can resume the cluster, you can apply policies for automated policies for when the cluster can scale out, scale in, stop and resume. So you can do all of that management much easier with the cloud services. So coming to the end of my presentation here, and I want to leave you with a vision for the team has here at Cloud Services is Our vision is really to empower multiple data management users with robust, agile, easy to use cloud based services to unlock the full power of modern data lake house data paradigms and build a modern analytics and AI agents along the way. So I hope I was able to pique interest of the listeners through this session. So just want to like spend like a minute or so to share how do you get started, right, on the cloud services. There are two ways to get started for free. You can freely sign up at cloudceleradata.com/login. All you need is an email ID. You can sign up there. And the first option is you get a free for our tier, meaning you get one front end node, one back end node that is yours forever. We don't charge you for it. And there is a 30-day free trial as well. It's not mutually exclusive. You can have both the free tier and also the 30-day free trial. 30-day free trial is unlimited nodes, full functionality, but obviously there's a 30-day limit. The free developer tier is yours forever. So with that, I come to the end of my presentation, and I would hand it back to Taylor to take things off from here.
Great. Thank you, Kiran. That was fantastic. All right, so now we get to the Q&A. So let's see if we got any questions. There is one right now. How does CelerData support the auto scale? Is it a customer auto scaler?
Yeah, so we have two different kinds of ways to auto scale. One is a infrastructure based auto scaling, and the second is a query queue based auto scaling. So these are two features. Customers can come onto the console. They can specifically say they can configure that if my CPU percentage is higher than 70%, 80%, whatever. And basically, customers have a way to come and define this policy which identifies this trend. Like, let's say, for example, CPU 80% or 5 minutes, add one or more nodes. So that's the policy they can come and configure on the console. There's another way, another type of policy is query queue policy. This is mostly for concurrency purposes. Users can come and define that, hey, if my query queue is more than 10 for the past 5 minutes, add one extra node or add two extra nodes. So customers can come in, configure these policies, and once the configuration is done, the cluster respects these policies, meaning when these behaviors are observed, the cluster scales out.
Great. Now I think we have time for one more question. How is the cost calculated for enterprise CelerData? Is it based on the number of nodes and uptime, kind of like EC2, or something else, like pay-as-you-go credits similar to Snowflake?
It is pay as you go in the sense that the charge for the cluster is different if the cluster is up and running, and the charge for the cluster is obviously much lower if the cluster is not running. As I mentioned earlier, you can come to the dashboard. You can actually configure like some automated policies to stop the cluster and resume the cluster. Resume is obviously cluster is running. So this is abstracted by a unit called CelerData Cloud Consumption Unit. It's abbreviated to CCU. It's a combination of the amount of CPU, amount of RAM that is there, and obviously there is a bit of a charge for the software also that you're doing it. So the full explanation probably takes more time, but it is an abstraction of how much memory, how much CPU that you're utilizing. You layer that up with the license cost, and you layer that up with the amount of layer that up with whether the cluster is running or not. There's more information available on our website, or you can contact me for more information, or your sales rep for more information.
And then one final question. Can we make sure that when user submits a critical query, it will never fail using the multi-warehouse feature?
Yeah, this is a tricky question because it depends on the query itself and the amount of resources that are available to the query, and also the number of queries that are also running on the system at that point of a time. I mean, technically speaking, yes, there are ways to make sure that the query is never failing. The cloud service guarantees the uptime from a infrastructure perspective. But if there is some bad processing happening on the query, a very large query executing, hammering the system, there is a chance that the query would fail. But there are mechanisms, guardrails that you can set, that you can like configure. But that's mostly done from the query side, not much on the cloud services side.
Okay, great. Well, we've got a couple more minutes left until the next session, a keynote session starts. So you'll all see that show up on the stage section, not the session section, just like you had the keynote this morning. But that should be a good session. So let people head over on to there. But again, before we do that, thanks everyone for attending. Again, if you haven't joined the StarRocks community on Slack, I encourage you to do so right now. But Kiran, thank you for presenting today. This has been really insightful, really helpful, and we really appreciate you sharing your time with us.
Sure, yeah. Thanks for listening in, folks. Yeah.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.